Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a stack of sources today that really get at a feeling I think a lot of you share.
Hmm.
It's the sense that the old rule book for success, the one based on planning and optimizing and just accumulating knowledge,
Yeah.
it feels like it suddenly stopped working. So we're diving deep into the core material you provided, which is titled From Certainty to Attention, Surviving Radical Uncertainty.
Right.
Our mission today is pretty simple.
Mhm.
We want to understand why the familiar tools, the classical strategies, feel so hollow, I guess, when you apply them to a modern career or to finance or even just trying to navigate social media.
And we have more data than ever.
Exactly. More data, more computing power, and yet we feel, I think, profoundly less certain about what's coming next.
Well, and what's fascinating here is that the source material immediately just dismisses the idea that the problem is, a lack of information,
Yeah.
or that we're somehow less intelligent.
Right.
The core issue is much more structural. We are dealing with a fundamental change in the class of problems that now define success and failure.
Okay.
We have moved from seeking certainty in these stable systems
Mhm.
to desperately competing for attention
Right.
in highly volatile, reflexive ones. And just understanding that shift is the first step.
Okay, let's unpack that. I think we need to start by establishing where we came from. We have to go back to this age of certainty you mentioned.
We're reigning intellectual ideal for centuries.
Yeah, it really gave rise to the Industrial Revolution, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the physical sciences, like classical mechanics or even engineering.
Structural vibration, things like that.
Exactly. The ideal was control. If you understood the system, the inputs, the forces, the material properties, you could model it. You could write the equations and predict its behavior pretty reliably.
Whether it's a planet's orbit or, like, the stress on a bridge.
Precisely. You could isolate the system, measure the variables, and then forecast the outcome. Think Newtonian physics.
Right. So in the classical view, uncertainty wasn't really a feature of the world. It was a bug.
It was a bug. It was treated merely as noise, a small calculable layer of disturbance on top of an underlying stable structure.
Something you could filter out.
Or at least calculate the odds of it happening. The assumption was always stability.
And that scientific worldview wasn't just in labs, right? It translated into how we thought about life and success.
Oh, completely. It created this formula that really dominated the 20th century. Knowledge leads to predictable outcomes.
So success was something you could plan for.
You could plan for it, you could optimize it, you could achieve it through enough understanding and, effort.
And the sources point out this formula worked beautifully for a long time because the environment itself changed so slowly.
It did. Specialized knowledge held a real, durable advantage. He spent 10 years mastering a rare skill or getting proprietary information.
That edge lasted.
It lasted for decades.
Mhm.
You could count on the stability of the whole system. So planning, optimization, specialization, those are the rational choices.
That sets the perfect baseline. Okay, so now let's trace the arc of how information itself has evolved, because this is where the ground starts to shift under our feet.
This is where the old formula breaks. The sources lay out a three-phase evolution.
Okay, so phase one.
We start with phase one, instinctual, or what they call embodied information. This is the earliest non-symbolic stuff. It's embedded in our nervous systems.
Like vision, hearing.
Vision, hearing, that jolt of fear, the ability to see a pattern in the grass, was all purely for survival.
So it was about immediate action. The sources note that attention was naturally scarce, it was localized, and the feedback loop was tight.
It was fast and good enough. Her behavior was adaptive, right? If the others ran, you ran. You didn't sit there and debate the data.
You just reacted.
Yeah. Then came phase two, symbolic or scarce information. This was the massive change brought on by language, numbers, and especially writing.
So we could externalize knowledge, store it across generations.
Exactly. And this created the historical strategic advantage we were just talking about. For most of history, symbolic info was expensive, slow to access, and hard to distribute.
So if you were a scribe or an engineer with special blueprints,
You had durable economic power. The whole classical formula, get an education, specialize, accumulate knowledge,
Yeah.
that was perfectly designed for a world where information was scarce.
But then we hit phase three.
Phase three, digital or abundant information. This is the shattering moment. Computers, networks. Connectivity collapses the cost of producing and distributing data to basically zero.
And AI just poured gasoline on that fire.
It accelerated exponentially. Now the generation and interpretation of data are effectively infinite.
And this is where it gets so weird. Suddenly, access to information is no longer an advantage. Everyone has it instantly for free.
Right.
But that didn't lead to clarity like the old system would promise. It just led to noise, overwhelming noise.
That is the core paradox of our time. Information abundance doesn't collapse uncertainty, it radically amplifies it.
How so?
Well, think about a piece of market news. When that was scarce, the first person to get it had an edge.
Of course.
Now, everyone gets it at the exact same millisecond. The collective, simultaneous reaction to the news completely overwhelms the actual content of the news itself.
So we're not reacting to the information anymore. We're reacting to the fact that everyone else is reacting to it.
Precisely. The signal is immediately turned into noise through imitation and feedback loops. It just gets arbitraged away instantly.
So this forces a major pivot. If information isn't the scarce resource anymore, what is?
It has to be attention.
Human attention.
Right. It's the bottleneck. Because unlike data, our attention is finite. It's biologically constrained. We only have so much cognitive bandwidth.
And this brings us to what the sources call a new class of problems.
The reflexive systems.
Okay, that sounds a little academic. Can you define that in a way that's relatable? Because it feels like it describes how we live now.
I think so. So in a classical system, the observer is separate from the thing being observed.
A scientist studying a falling rock.
Exactly. Studying the rock doesn't change the speed of the rock. But a reflexive system is made of agents, people, algorithms, who observe the system, react to it, and in doing so, they immediately change the system they're observing.
It's a massive instant feedback loop.
A huge one.
It's like a flash mob where everyone is watching their own location on a GPS map and adjusting their path based on what everyone else is doing.
Perfect analogy. Or think about the stock market.
Mm.
An analyst publishes a model saying a stock will rise.
Right.
The model fails the second it's published. Why? Because everyone reads it and acts on it, changing the price before the prediction could ever play out naturally.
So prediction fails not because we lack data, but because the system listens to the models.
Yes, you cannot isolate the system from the act of observing it anymore.
And this reflexivity is what drives the attention economy. It makes engagement the only metric that matters.
It's the dominant organizing principle. Industries are now fully geared toward capturing and holding your focus. Depth is secondary to visibility. Reaction speed is everything.
That feels profoundly unstable.
It is unstable. The very mechanism of getting attention is designed to create churn. If an edge is found, like a new video format on social media, millions copy it instantly.
And the edge is gone.
It's gone in days, sometimes hours. The system is designed to accelerate novelty, consume it, and then demand the next thing. It just pushes us toward more and more volatility.
That paradox is brutal. But I want to push back a little here. If everyone is failing at prediction, what about the big institutions? The ones with the fastest algorithms?
That's a great question.
Don't they still have an edge? They can predict the first millisecond of the reaction.
And they do. That's why high-frequency trading exists. They capture that initial fraction of a second. But, and this is the crucial part, their optimization strategy often forces them into these highly leveraged, overcommitted positions.
So they gain speed, but they lose resilience.
Exactly. They become incredibly fragile. And statistically, this is where we have to start talking about fat-tailed patterns.
Okay, explain that.
In the old world, the world of the bell curve, extreme events were super rare and had predictable limits. In these reflexive, attention-driven systems, success and failure are dominated by a small number of extreme, rare outcomes, the fat tails of the distribution.
So winning 99 times out of 100 doesn't matter if that one loss is so catastrophic it wipes you out entirely.
That is it, precisely. The system rewards visibility, but it punishes any dependence on stability. This is why success today, in business, investing, creative work, it all feels so arbitrary and unstable.
Because any visible edge is just arbitraged away instantly.
Which makes any success incredibly transient and fragile. The old planning model of steady upward climb, it becomes totally irrelevant.
So if optimization is failing us, what is the rational response? This brings us to the work of Nassim Nicholas Taleb and others.
It does, and Taleb's central insight here is just critical. In systems dominated by these rare, unpredictable shocks, these black swans.
Events you can't model.
Can't model, can't predict. Trying to pick the winning outcome is a fool's errand. Therefore, the strategic focus has to shift entirely. From optimization and maximizing expected value to resilience and ruin avoidance.
Wow. So the practical question is no longer, how do I succeed? It's, what would irrevocably destroy me? That's a huge mental shift.
It's massive. Think
Yeah.
about it in career terms. Optimizing for success might mean getting a very specialized degree, taking on huge debt for it, and relying on one company in one industry.
I expected value, but
Zero optionality. You're fragile. One unexpected shock, a new technology, a financial crisis, and that entire foundation shatters.
because you were optimized for just one scenario.
Exactly. Ruin avoidance means minimizing your single points of failure. It means keeping debt low, building transferable skills, having a diverse network, even if those things don't maximize your income this month.
So we're talking about a strategy based on asymmetry, making lots of small, limited bets where the upside is open-ended but the failure is cheap.
That is the core strategy. You have to accept that most of your attempts, most projects, most investments are going to fail. That's the cost of staying in the game.
But because your downside on each failure is limited.
A few rare successes, which you don't even need to predict, will more than compensate for all those cheap losses.
Can you ground that for us? What does a cheap failure look like versus an expensive one?
An expensive failure is the one we just used, taking on 6 figures of debt for a degree that becomes obsolete. A cheap failure is, say, spending a few weekends learning a new coding language to build a small side project that goes nowhere. The cost was just your time.
But if it takes off,
The upside is huge. Or in finance, making small bets where you can only lose the premium, but the potential gain is unlimited. The system rewards being positioned for positive surprises, not planning for predictable success.
and this approach, it seems to me, demands endurance above all else. You have to stay in the game long enough for those fat tail events to actually happen.
Endurance is the resilience strategy in action. If you get wiped out by the first negative shock, you miss all the potential positive ones that follow. The goal is to survive long enough that volatility, the very thing that makes the system so uncertain, actually becomes your friend.
Because it gives you more chances for that positive asymmetry.
It does. And we have to just briefly touch on the AI multiplier here, because AI doesn't solve this problem. It makes it worse.
How so? It doesn't make things more certain.
No, it accelerates reflexivity. It processes information and executes actions faster than any human, which shrinks the window for any informational edge to near zero. It spots and erases simple patterns almost as soon as they emerge.
So more compute just means a faster reaction speed, not better prediction.
Exactly. It makes the arbitrage instant, which just fuels even greater volatility.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, the old promise, learn more, plan better, predict more accurately. That model of control is it's broken. It no longer holds in a world of abundant information and scarce attention.
The attention systems we live in are inherently unstable. They're designed to reward the rare, unpredictable event. So resilience is not some consolation prize for failing to achieve predictable success.
It's the prerequisite.
It is the absolute prerequisite for any success that lasts longer than a fleeting moment.
Certainty belonged to an era of stable problems we could isolate. Our task now isn't to master the system through prediction, but to, learn how to navigate it without being broken by it.
And that's not a retreat from intelligence. It's an essential adaptation. The rigor required today is about accepting that uncertainty, severely limiting your exposure to catastrophic loss to your ruin, and constantly preserving your optionality, your ability to make a future move.
And I think that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull on. If the environment is fundamentally unpredictable and dominated by rare events, perhaps the most intelligent strategic move you can make today is simply reserving the ability to act tomorrow. Your job isn't to guarantee a big win today. It's to ensure that you cannot be forced out of the game when the inevitable shock hits. And that flexibility preserving your optionality, that may be the new definition of wealth.